The shrill sound of the alarm clock exploded in her ear. Greta Hensley irritably turned it off, but was stunned the moment she opened her eyes. This wasn't her familiar rented flat, but a pink room full of girlish charm. A flood of memory fragments rushed into her mind, and she suddenly realized that she had transmigrated into a novel, becoming the vicious female supporting character, also named Greta Hensley, in the young adult novel The Remains of the Day. According to the plot, the original Greta would constantly sabotage the female lead out of jealousy for her brilliance, ultimately reaping what she sowed and meeting a miserable end. Now, there were only two paths before her: follow the plot and eventually head towards destruction, or break free from the plot's control and change her fate. I will change my destiny. Greta clenched her fists, her eyes filled with determination. In the afternoon, sunlight poured through the library windows, falling on the bookshelves, the air filled with a faint scent of books. Greta sat by the window, engrossed in the book in her hands. Suddenly, a warm smile caught her eye, like the sun on a winter's day, instantly dispelling the gloom in her heart. Greta, what book are you reading? You seem so absorbed. Greta looked up to see Meredith Lowell smiling at her, arms full of books. Meredith was the protagonist of this novel and the school star, not only excelling in her studies but also known for her genuine kindness, making her extremely popular at school. Nothing much, just browsing, Greta replied nonchalantly, her eyes slightly evasive. Previously, the original Greta had always tried to avoid Meredith, as her excellence was like a mirror, reflecting the original Greta's insecurities and ugliness. You didn't used to come to the library much, did you? Meredith keenly noticed Greta's change and asked curiously. People change, don't they? Greta answered, feigning casualness while feeling a bit uneasy inside. She wasn't sure if her current behavior would arouse Meredith's suspicion, given how different she was from the original Greta. I suppose they do, Meredith didn't think much of it. In her view, although Greta had been somewhat arrogant and domineering in the past, she wasn't inherently bad. Perhaps she had encountered something recently that made her start to reflect on herself. In the days that followed, Greta seemed to become a different person, starting to pay attention in class and study hard. She used to sleep or play on her phone during lessons, relying on cheating for exams, with abysmal grades. Now, she would arrive early at the library to secure a seat, listen attentively, take notes, and actively seek help from teachers and classmates when she didn't understand something, as if trying to make up for all the lessons she had missed before. Her classmates were all stunned by Greta's transformation, speculating whether she had experienced some kind of shock. Only Greta herself knew that she just wanted to escape the fate of the vicious supporting character in the book and strive for a better future for herself. Thea Chamberlain watched Greta's figure bend over her books, her heart a jumble of emotions. She had always been the top student in the class, with excellent grades, enjoying the favor of teachers and the admiration of classmates. However, Greta's transformation made her feel an unprecedented crisis. How could Greta enjoy a privileged life and effortlessly change herself, gaining everyone's approval? No, she couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Thea clenched her fists, a malicious plan gradually forming in her mind. She wanted everyone to know that Greta's change was nothing but a hypocritical act, that deep down she was still that selfish, ignorant bad girl. The opportunity soon arrived. During a maths lesson, the headmaster suddenly came to observe the class. The teacher called on Greta to answer a question. Greta calmly analyzed the problem-solving approach, her thoughts clear and her logic rigorous, winning the unanimous praise of both the teacher and the headmaster. This student's analysis is very insightful, and her learning attitude is very serious. I hope all of you will follow her example, study hard, and strive for greater progress, the headmaster said earnestly to the students, his gaze lingering on Greta. Greta was caught off guard by this sudden praise, lowering her head in embarrassment, her cheeks flushing slightly. Thea, watching Greta's blushing face, felt even more indignant. After class, she deliberately said to Greta in a seemingly casual manner, "Well, some people are really good at putting on an act. Who knows how much effort they put in behind the scenes to perform so well in front of the teachers and the headmaster." Meredith heard the sarcasm in Thea's words and was about to retort when Greta held her back. Greta just smiled faintly and said, "I just want to change myself, to become better." Is there anything wrong with that? Thea sneered. Change? That sounds nice, but who knows if you're not up to some new trick. Greta didn't want to argue further and left the classroom with Meredith. That evening, Greta's father returned home from work and unusually inquired about her studies. I heard you performed well at school today, he asked casually while loosening his tie. Greta was taken aback, not expecting her father to care about her studies. Suppressing her excitement, she softly replied, Yes, the teacher said I've made great progress recently. Progress? What progress could you possibly make? It's all just an act, Mr. Hensley scoffed, his tone full of disdain. What's the use of a girl studying so much? In the end, you'll just get married, have children, and stay at home to look after your husband and kids. Greta's heart sank instantly. She hadn't expected her father to have such thoughts. She wanted to say more, but was impatiently interrupted by her father. All right, I'm tired. Go back to your room and study. Greta returned to her room powerlessly, looking at the gradually darkening sky outside the window, a deep sense of helplessness welling up in her heart. She knew that to change her image in her father's eyes, there was still a long way to go. Greta Hensley returned to her room, tossing her bag on the desk in frustration. Outside, the night was deepening, and the pale moonlight fell on a pink envelope lying on her desk. Puzzled, Greta opened it, revealing elegant handwriting that made her heart tighten. Stay away from Arthur Wallington, or face the consequences. Who had sent this anonymous letter? Warning her to stay away from Arthur? Anger and confusion intertwined in Greta's mind. Her instincts told her that Thea Chamberlain must be involved. The next day, Greta confronted Thea at the university entrance. She grabbed Thea's arm, her tone icy. Did you write that letter? Thea feigned surprise, widening her eyes. What are you talking about? What letter? I don't understand. Don't play dumb. Greta stepped closer, her gaze piercing. Who else would do such a thing but you? Meredith Lowell, passing by, saw the scene and hurried over to inquire, what's going on? What's happened? Greta took a deep breath and told Meredith about the anonymous letter in a hushed voice. After listening, Meredith exclaimed indignantly, That's outrageous. It must be Thea's doing. I'll go and confront her. Greta held Meredith back, shaking her head. We don't have any proof yet. We can't act rashly. Let's investigate on our own first. Meredith looked at Greta with concern. Her usually vibrant friend now seemed as wilted as a frostbitten plant. She gently held Greta's hand and asked softly, Greta, what's been bothering you lately? Is there something on your mind? Tell me, and we'll figure it out together. Greta hesitated for a moment before deciding to confide in her friend. She revealed everything about the anonymous letter, anxiety spreading through her. I suspect Thea did it, but she denies it. I don't know what to do. Don't worry, we'll get to the bottom of this together. Meredith's eyes sparkled with determination. We'll find evidence and expose Thea's true colors. The afternoon sun streamed through the classroom windows, adding warmth to the desks. Arthur Wallington approached Greta, his sunny smile dispelling some of the gloom in her heart. Greta, the Chamberlain Literary Society is recruiting new members. You're such a talented writer, why don't you give it a try? Greta was momentarily taken aback, then smiled and agreed, Sure, I'm quite interested in the Literary Society as well. After joining the society, Greta discovered that Arthur was not only academically brilliant but also multi-talented. His poetry was full of youthful vigor, and his recitations were passionate, deeply captivating her. They often discussed literary works together, sharing their creative insights, and their relationship gradually warmed. Greta gladly accepted Arthur's invitation to join the Chamberlain Literary Society. Sunlight filtered through the dappled shadows of trees, falling into the society's classroom, filling the air with a youthful atmosphere. Students enthusiastically discussed literary works and shared their creative experiences. Greta felt a long-lost sense of belonging. However, this pleasant moment was shattered by sudden mockery. Well, if it isn't our little literary genius? Finally decided to grace us commoners with your presence? The grating voice came from the doorway. Greta looked up sharply to see Bernard Lightoller standing there, arms crossed, with a look of disdain. She was puzzled, not understanding why Bernard harbored such hostility towards her. Faced with his provocation, Greta chose to ignore it and continued to interact with her fellow society members. During the subsequent society activities, Greta displayed remarkable literary talent. Her understanding of poetry was unique and profound, and her prose writings were eloquent and emotionally nuanced, earning admiration from everyone present. Even Bernard, who usually held himself in high regard, couldn't help but look at her with newfound respect. As night fell and the street lamps flickered to life, Greta walked home alone after a fulfilling day of society activities. The street lamps cast a warm glow, elongating her shadow on the pavement. Suddenly, she sensed someone following her. The footsteps were light and rhythmic, maintaining a constant distance behind her. Greta's heart began to race. She unconsciously quickened her pace, but the footsteps behind her also increased in frequency. Fear coiled around her heart like a vine. She didn't dare look back and could only run forward desperately. Greta Hensley whirled around, and under the dim streetlight, Bernard Lightoller's figure suddenly appeared before her eyes. "Are you following me?" Greta suppressed her anger, her tone icy cold. Bernard sneered, retorting defiantly, "What's wrong with me walking this way? As for you, instead of studying properly, you're always hanging around with those dodgy people. What are you up to?" Bernard's words cut like sharp knives, wounding Greta's pride. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. "Who I spend time with is my business, it's not for you to interfere." Greta coldly threw out these words, turning to leave. "What's the matter? Hit a nerve, did I? Feeling guilty?" Bernard grabbed Greta's arm, persisting relentlessly. "Let me tell you, Greta Hensley, don't think your little schemes can fool everyone. I'm going to tell the professor about your cheating, let everyone see your true colors." Greta forcefully shook off Bernard's hand, her anger no longer containable. "Cheating? You say I cheated? What evidence do you have?" Bernard smugly waved a piece of paper in his hand, on which were clearly written the answers to this month's exam. "This is the evidence. Still want to deny it?" Before Greta could speak, a sharp bell rang out, signaling the end of class, and a stern voice came from behind. "Greta Hensley, come with me to the headmaster's office." The headmaster, his face ashen, fixed Greta with a piercing gaze, as if trying to see right through her. Greta's heart sank suddenly. She knew a storm was about to break. In the headmaster's office, the atmosphere was suffocatingly tense. Greta stood silently in front of the desk, facing the headmaster's questioning, feeling incredibly wronged and angry. "Greta Hensley, someone has reported you for cheating on the exam. How do you explain this?" The headmaster slammed the paper with the answers on the desk, his tone severe. Greta pressed her lips tightly together, her cold gaze sweeping over the paper, the scrawled handwriting not her own. "I didn't cheat," she said firmly, without a hint of hesitation. "You dare to quibble." The headmaster suddenly slammed his hand on the desk, rising angrily. "This paper was found in your desk, with the exam answers clearly written on it. Are you still trying to deny it?" "Sir, I believe Greta." A clear voice came from the doorway as Arthur Wallington strode into the office, his gaze steady, his tone filled with unwavering trust. "Greta's grades have always been excellent, she has no need to cheat." Arthur's appearance caught the headmaster off guard. He hadn't expected Arthur to stand up for Greta. "Arthur Wallington, this matter doesn't concern you. Don't interfere." "Sir, I just want to speak the truth." Arthur's gaze met the headmaster's directly, his tone calm yet carrying a powerful presence. "I trust Greta's character, and I believe in her abilities." Arthur's defense sent a warm current through Greta's heart. In this cold moment, his trust was like sunshine on a winter's day, warming her heart. The headmaster was about to say something more when he was interrupted by the sound of hurried footsteps from outside. Meredith Lowell rushed into the office, out of breath, holding a piece of paper. "Sir, I've found evidence. This note belongs to Thea Chamberlain, and the handwriting is hers." Meredith handed the paper to the headmaster, on which Thea Chamberlain was clearly written, the handwriting identical to that on the answer sheet. The headmaster's face turned ashen as he took the paper, carefully examining it before having to admit that Meredith was telling the truth. He took a deep breath, trying to suppress the anger in his heart, and turned to Greta, his tone softening somewhat. "Greta Hensley, the school has misunderstood you in this matter. On behalf of the school, I apologize to you." When Greta returned home, she was not greeted with warm comfort, but with her father's furious scolding. "You have the nerve to come back. The school called home, saying you cheated? You disgraceful thing." Mr. Hensley was so angry his veins were popping, and he smashed his teacup on the ground, shattering it. Greta remained silent, standing stubbornly in place, enduring her father's rage like a violent storm. She knew that in her father's eyes, grades were more important than anything, and she was just a dispensable daughter. "Get out! Don't let me see you again!" Mr. Hensley shouted, pointing at the door in uncontrollable anger. Greta bit her lip, her eyes brimming with tears, but she held them back fiercely. She turned silently and walked out of the house. At the University of London, rumors about Greta spread like a plague. Thea Chamberlain embellished various gossip to her classmates, portraying Greta as a girl of poor character who never studied. In no time, Greta became the target of everyone's criticism, pointed at and whispered about wherever she went. "Look, that's Greta Hensley. I heard she was caught cheating." "Really? You'd never guess, she always acts so high and mighty. You can't judge a book by its cover. Who knows what kind of person she really is?" The stinging comments pierced Greta's heart like needles. She felt like a trapped beast in a cage, with nowhere to escape. "Don't listen to their nonsense. I believe in you." Arthur's voice sounded beside her, his gaze steady and warm, like a beacon lighting up the darkness. Greta looked up, meeting Arthur's clear eyes, and felt an inexplicable strength welling up inside her. She took a deep breath, her gaze gradually becoming more determined. "Thank you, Arthur. I won't let them win." As the sun set, the sports field was empty. Greta stood alone on the track, gazing at the distant sky, her heart full of confusion and uncertainty. At that moment, a figure slowly approached her, and a familiar voice sounded in her ear. "Are you all right?" Meredith Lowell looked at Greta Hensley with concern, gently holding her hand. "Greta, don't be upset. Those rumors are all false. I believe in you." Greta forced a smile. "I'm fine. The truth will come out eventually." Despite her words, the constant malicious attacks and isolation had taken their toll on Greta. She knew that to change the situation, she had to uncover the truth. Her instincts told her that Thea Chamberlain and Bernard Lightoller were involved. By chance, Greta stumbled upon Thea and Bernard whispering in the university's back garden. She hid behind a tree, holding her breath, listening carefully to their conversation. "That fool Greta really thinks she can clear her name," Thea's voice was full of pride. "This time, I've set up the cheating accusation perfectly. Let's see how she explains her way out of this." "You're brilliant," Bernard chimed in, a malicious smile on his face. "I've always disliked her, always acting so high and mighty. It makes me sick." Hearing this, Greta's heart skipped a beat. The truth had finally surfaced. She clenched her fists, anger burning within her. So it was all Thea and Bernard's scheme. They had stooped so low to frame her. Greta took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She decided she would no longer remain silent. She would bravely stand up and expose their true nature. A few days later, the university held an assembly. On the stage, the headmaster solemnly announced some recent disciplinary incidents, emphasizing the seriousness of cheating in exams. Just then, a clear voice rang out across the courtyard. "Sir, I have something to say." All eyes turned to the source of the voice, Greta Hensley. She walked onto the stage with determination in her eyes, took the microphone, looked around, and began to speak slowly. "I know there have been many rumors about me at the university lately. I've been accused of cheating on exams, but I can tell you all with a clear conscience that I have never done anything to betray my own principles. Greta's voice was clear and firm, carrying an undeniable strength. I know who's been spreading these rumors and framing me, and I have evidence. A commotion broke out in the crowd, students whispering and discussing among themselves. Thea and Bernard turned pale, exchanging terrified glances as they tried to avoid the scrutinizing looks from others. Ignoring their panic, Greta continued, "The other day, I overheard Thea and Bernard talking in the university's back garden. They admitted to framing me for cheating and even boasted about how perfectly they had done it." She took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping across the audience like a torch. "I believe the university will give me a fair hearing and clear my name." With that, she put down the microphone and walked off the stage, her eyes filled with determination. The entire courtyard fell silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The headmaster's face was grave. He hadn't expected things to develop like this. He spoke in a deep voice, "The university will thoroughly investigate this matter. We will not tolerate any student who violates the rules." The truth quickly came to light. Thea and Bernard's plot was completely exposed, and they received their due punishment. Greta's innocence was proven, and her fellow students looked at her with newfound admiration. The headmaster called Greta to his office and spoke to her earnestly. "Greta, you've been very brave to stand up and reveal the truth. The university is proud of you. I hope you continue to maintain this integrity and kindness." Greta's perseverance and courage also made her father, Humphrey Hensley, see her in a new light. For the first time, he seriously examined his daughter and realized she was no longer the timid, weak girl he once knew. His heart was filled with mixed emotions, but ultimately, he nodded and agreed to let Greta continue her studies. "Greta, I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you that way." Humphrey's voice choked with emotion, his eyes full of remorse. Greta's nose tingled with emotion as she gently hugged her father. "Dad, I'm just glad you understand now." The evening sun cast a warm golden glow over the courtyard, bathing everything in its light. Arthur Wallington stood nervously, holding a bouquet of roses, waiting for Greta. "Greta," he called out as he saw her approaching, her graceful figure seeming to radiate light. Greta saw him and a bright smile bloomed on her face. "What are you doing here?" Arthur walked up to her, took a deep breath, and summoned his courage. "Greta, I know this might be too soon, but I don't want to wait any longer. I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" Greta was stunned for a moment. She hadn't expected him to be so direct. A blush crept across her cheeks. Looking into Arthur's sincere eyes, she felt a warmth spreading through her heart and nodded gently. Arthur was overjoyed and pulled her into an embrace. Happy moments are often fleeting, and just as the two were enjoying the sweetness of their new love, a discordant voice broke the tranquility. Well, isn't this romantic?" Greta and Arthur turned their heads simultaneously to see a tall man standing not far away, wearing a flat cap and sunglasses, his face obscured. "Who are you?" Arthur asked warily. The man didn't answer, just gave a cold laugh and pulled a photograph from his pocket, tossing it in front of them. The photo showed the back of a woman, unmistakably Greta. "If you don't want anything to happen to her, stay away from her," the man said, then turned and melted into the darkness of the night as if he had never been there. Greta picked up the photo, her fingers trembling slightly. A strong sense of unease rose in her heart. Who was this man? Why was he warning Arthur? And what was the story behind the woman in the photo? Various questions swirled in Greta's mind. She suddenly realized that she seemed to have been drawn into a larger conspiracy, and this was only the beginning. The man's deep voice and the silhouette in the photograph made Greta Hensley's heart clench, a nameless fear swiftly coiling around her like ivy. Arthur Wallington noticed her unease and took her hand, asking with concern, "What's wrong?" Greta forced a smile. "It's nothing, I'm probably overthinking." She tucked the photo into her pocket, as if hiding it could conceal her inner turmoil. The evening breeze carried a hint of chill, dispersing the sweetness in the air and scattering Greta's thoughts. Lately, she had been so immersed in the joy of love that she had almost forgotten her identity as a character who had crossed over from another world, forgotten the mysterious prophecy. Was this fate's warning? Would getting close to Arthur truly bring him misfortune? Back home, Greta was preoccupied, barely touching her dinner. Humphrey Hinsley noticed her pale face and asked a few concerned questions, but Greta just shook her head, insisting she was fine. Late into the night, Greta lay in bed, unable to sleep. The stranger's warning, her own image in the photo, Arthur's radiant smile, various images intertwined in her mind, leaving her in turmoil. Suddenly, a frantic knocking broke the night's silence, followed by her brother Bernard's panicked cry, "Greta! Come quick!" Dad's collapsed. Greta's drowsiness vanished instantly as she bolted upright, her heart gripped by an invisible hand, causing a sharp pain. She stumbled out of her room to find Humphrey lying pale on the sofa, his lips purple, unconscious. The ambulance siren pierced the quiet night as Greta clutched her father's hand, tears blurring her vision. If the shadow in the photo was just a premonition, her father's sudden illness had completely shattered her. In the hospital corridor, she crouched helplessly, burying her face in her hands, muffled sobs escaping through her fingers. Guilt, fear, and worry overwhelmed her like a tidal wave. "It's all my fault, it's all my fault," Greta murmured. If she hadn't crossed over, if she hadn't deliberately gotten close to Arthur, perhaps none of this would have happened. As if to confirm her unease, rumors about her began to circulate at the university. At first, it was just whispers about her recent strange behavior, as if she had become a different person. Then, people began to claim with certainty that she was from another world and that she had ulterior motives for getting close to Arthur. The rumors spread like a virus across campus, and soon Greta became the target of everyone's suspicion. Her classmates' gazes changed, filled with curiosity, doubt, and even fear. Once friendly greetings turned into pointing and whispering, once kind smiles became hushed conversations. Greta felt as if she were isolated in a transparent cage, lonely, helpless, and desperate. Arthur noticed Greta's unusual behavior and tried to comfort her, but she pushed him away. "Don't touch me," Greta cried, her eyes red and her voice hoarse. "It's all because of you. It's all your fault." Arthur was stunned. He didn't know what had happened or why Greta was suddenly so angry with him. He wanted to explain, to get closer to her, but was hurt by the hatred in her eyes. Arthur's hand froze in midair as he looked at Greta, his eyes full of pain and confusion. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but ultimately said nothing. He knew that words were useless now, what Greta needed was to calm down, not explanations. Greta turned and ran away, tears blurring her vision. She didn't know where she was going or what to do. She only knew that she needed to escape from here, from everything. As the sun set and darkness fell, Greta walked aimlessly through the streets. The sound of traffic roared past her ears but couldn't penetrate her inner world. Her world seemed to have become a deathly silent void. Suddenly, a car lost control and hurtled towards her. The piercing sound of brakes screeching shattered the quiet evening, and before Greta could react, she was thrown into the air by a tremendous force. "Greta!" Meredith Lowell's heart-wrenching scream came from afar, but she could no longer hear it. Her consciousness gradually faded, and the world before her eyes turned to darkness. "The patient has lost too much blood, she needs immediate surgery." "Greta! Greta! Wake up!" "Doctor, how is she?" "We've done our best, now it's up to her will to live." Greta felt as if she had fallen into a bottomless abyss, surrounded by darkness, without sound or light, only endless fear and despair. In her daze, she saw flashes of images before her eyes, her parents' disappointment, her classmates' mockery, Arthur's indifference. Everything was like a series of sharp knives, piercing her heart. She wanted to escape but had nowhere to go. She wanted to scream but couldn't make a sound. She was like being trapped in a nightmare, unable to wake up or find release. "Greta, you must hold on." A familiar voice rang in her ear, trembling with a hint of tears. Greta tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids felt as heavy as lead. She struggled to grasp that faint glimmer of light, only to find herself being swallowed by darkness. In the boundless darkness, Arthur Wallington's voice was like a lifeline, desperately trying to pull Greta Hinsley back from the brink of oblivion. "Greta, wake up, please, wake up." His voice grew louder, yet increasingly desperate. Suddenly, as if responding to his call, the previously flat line on the heart monitor flickered. Then, the faint sound of a heartbeat resumed. Greta slowly opened her heavy eyelids, the harsh white light causing her to squint. The rhythmic beeping of machines and excited whispers filled her ears. She wiggled her fingers, feeling a surge of real pain, confirming that she had indeed returned from the brink of death. "Greta, you're awake." Meredith Lowell gripped her hand, tears streaming down her face. "You scared me to death, you know?" Greta managed a weak smile, wanting to comfort her friend but finding herself too weak to speak. "Doctor, how is she?" Arthur anxiously inquired. "The patient is out of immediate danger, but she'll need to remain under observation for a while," the doctor explained seriously, detailing the precautions. During this time, try to keep the patient's emotions stable and let her rest well. In the days that followed, Greta felt as if she were floating in a warm ocean, surrounded by the attentive care of family and friends. Meredith visited the hospital daily, chatting with her and sharing amusing stories from university. Professor Landor brought get-well cards from the entire class, each word filled with warmth and encouragement. Even her usually aloof father, Humphrey Hinsley, surprisingly prepared soup for her, his concern evident in the creases of his eyes and brows. All of this gradually melted Greta's once cold heart. She began to reflect on her recent behavior. Was she really going to give up and let fate control her? No, she wouldn't. She had to pull herself together and face everything bravely, for the sake of those who loved her, and for herself. From that day on, Greta actively cooperated with her treatment. Her once pale face slowly regained some color. She no longer resisted the doctor's examinations and treatments, but instead began to take an active interest in understanding her condition and engaging in rehabilitation exercises. Seeing her work so hard, everyone felt relieved, as if they could see the dawn of hope. Arthur remained the sunny boy who stood guard by her side. He came to the hospital every day to chat with her, tell her jokes, and bring her various treats in creative ways. He would support her as they walked in the hospital garden, watching the sunset together, encouraging her in his own way, accompanying her. "Arthur," Greta said suddenly one sunny afternoon, looking out the window, "I'm sorry." Arthur paused for a moment, then understanding what she meant, shook his head with a smile. "Silly girl, what nonsense are you talking about? It's all in the past." "No, Arthur, I was really wrong." Greta turned to face him, her gaze serious. "I shouldn't have treated you like that, nor should I have treated myself that way. I've been thinking a lot during this time, and I've realized I've been too stubborn all along." Shoo, Arthur gently covered her mouth, saying softly, "I know, I understand it all." "You don't need to say it, I understand everything." "Arthur." Greta's eyes welled up again. She knew that Arthur had always understood her, always tolerated all her willfulness and unreasonable behavior. "All right, silly, don't cry." Arthur gently wiped away the tears from the corner of her eyes. "Look at you, you've only just started to get better, we can't have you crying again." Greta laughed through her tears, and they smiled at each other, everything understood without words. Their relationship, having endured this life and death trial, had become deeper and more unbreakable. After being discharged from the hospital, Greta seemed like a different person. No longer spending her days in depression, she was full of vitality. She took the initiative to find Professor Landor, confiding her confusion and uncertainty. After listening patiently, Professor Landor encouraged her, "Greta, life is like a marathon. Falling down isn't scary, what's important is getting back up. You're still young, everything can start anew." Professor Landor's words were like a ray of sunshine, illuminating the gloom in Greta's heart. With the help of Professor Landor and Meredith, she made a detailed study plan, determined to catch up on the courses she had missed. From that day on, Greta rose early and stayed up late, immersing herself in the ocean of knowledge. Meredith was also inspired by her change and offered to study with her every day. The two encouraged and helped each other, progressing together. Greta had always been a quick learner, and now with her extra efforts, her grades improved rapidly. After a monthly exam, Greta's results came out. She had made it into the top 10 in her class. This news caused quite a stir in the class, with her classmates looking at her with newfound respect. The university was organizing a speech competition with the theme My Youth, My Dream, and Professor Landor encouraged Greta to participate. Greta hesitated, afraid to face the crowd and their potentially judgmental looks. "Greta, take this brave step," Arthur encouraged her. "You've already conquered illness, what else is there to fear?" Finally, Greta decided to courageously take the stage and share her experience with everyone. On the day of the speech competition, Greta walked onto the stage, facing the sea of people below, feeling incredibly calm inside. She slowly recounted her story, how she had gone from confusion to determination, from despair to hope. Her voice was clear and powerful, moving everyone present. After the speech, thunderous applause erupted from the audience. Greta bowed deeply, tears glistening in her eyes. At that moment, she knew she had completely bid farewell to her past and welcomed a new life. However, it seemed that the wheels of fate had not stopped turning. Just when Greta thought she could finally start anew, an unexpected figure appeared before her. A tall figure blocked Greta Hensley's path back to the classroom. It was Thea Chamberlain, her arms crossed over her chest, wearing a smile with an indecipherable meaning. Well, if it isn't our class's newly minted top student, Greta Hensley? What's this, not rushing off to prepare for the next competition after your speech contest? Flirting with Arthur Wallington again, are we? The acerbic words made Greta furrow her brow. "Please show some respect when you speak," Greta retorted coldly, not wanting to engage further. "Oh, did I hit a nerve? Feeling embarrassed, are we?" Thea's tone grew more arrogant, drawing the attention of surrounding classmates. "That's enough, Thea. How long are you going to keep this up?" Arthur Wallington's voice came from behind the crowd. He pushed through, standing beside Greta, his gaze fixed firmly on Thea. "Everyone has seen Greta's hard work. Please stop making these malicious assumptions about her." Thea felt unnerved by Arthur's stern look, but her words remained sharp. Malicious assumptions? She went from being at the bottom of the class to the top. Who knows what underhanded methods she used? "Silence!" The headmaster's voice boomed from the other end of the corridor. He strode over, looking sternly at Thea. "Miss Hensley has shown exceptional improvement in her recent exams. She's a model student for the class. You shouldn't be slandering her or making baseless accusations against your classmates." Thea, cowed by the headmaster's authority, dared not speak further and scurried away. "Greta, don't take it to heart. The truth will out," Arthur consoled her. Greta nodded, but her mood remained tense. She knew that Thea was just a minor hiccup, greater challenges lay ahead. That evening, Greta returned home to find her father unexpectedly there. Mr. Hensley had become irritable and quick-tempered since falling ill, rarely coming home. "Dad, you're back," Greta said softly. Mr. Hensley sat on the sofa, his face pale, but his spirits seemed improved. He looked up at Greta, his eyes showing a hint of remorse. "Greta, I was wrong about you before. You're a good child." Hearing her father's words, Greta's eyes immediately welled up. She knew her father was finally beginning to understand and accept her. At that moment, she felt all her efforts and sacrifices had been worthwhile. Greta could no longer hold back her tears and threw herself into her father's arms. The emotional barrier between father and daughter finally crumbled. During dinner, the table was filled with rare laughter and chatter. Mr. Hensley kept piling food onto Greta's plate, guilt washing over him as he noticed his daughter's increasingly thin face. After dinner, Greta received a text from Arthur, inviting her to join the charity sale organized by the university. Greta happily agreed, knowing that Arthur had always been quietly supporting her. The campus was bustling with activity on the weekend, with the charity sale attracting many students and teachers. Greta and Arthur set up their stall together, selling books and handicrafts donated by their classmates. Arthur, with his gift of gab, enthusiastically introduced each item to passing students, while Greta handled the cash and organized the goods. Their seamless teamwork drew many students to stop and make purchases. "Look at how well they work together," Indeed, they're a perfect match, made for each other. The chatter of nearby students reached the ears of Thea and Bernard, who stood at a distance, watching Greta and Arthur laughing and talking. Their hearts stung with jealousy. Humph, what's so great about them? Just a bit of sweet talk and pretense. Bernard said sourly. Exactly, let's see how long their smugness lasts. Thea chimed in, a glint of malice in her eyes. Despite their harsh words, they both knew that Greta was no longer the pushover she once was. She had become confident, brave, and increasingly outstanding. Even their jealousy couldn't deny this fact. After the charity sale, Greta and Arthur walked home together, the golden glow of the setting sun casting a halo around them. Greta, have you thought about which university you'd like to attend? Arthur broke the silence. Greta paused, looking up at the evening sky, pondering for a moment before replying, I've always wanted to go to Oxford. They have the program I'm most interested in. Oxford? That's one of the best universities in the country. Arthur exclaimed, surprised, but then smiled. But I believe you can do it. You're brilliant. Greta smiled softly and asked, what about you? What are your plans? Me? Arthur scratched his head, a bit embarrassed. Actually, I've always wanted to go to the same university as you. That way, we could always be together. Greta was taken aback, her heart involuntarily quickening. She hadn't expected Arthur to say such a thing. What's wrong? Don't you want that? Arthur asked nervously, noticing Greta's silence. No, it's not that. Greta lowered her head, her cheeks flushing slightly. I just thought it was sudden. Actually, I've wanted to tell you for a long time, but... Arthur took a deep breath, mustering his courage. I was afraid you'd reject me. Greta looked up, meeting Arthur's sincere gaze. A warmth spread through her heart, and she nodded gently, saying, I trust you. Time flew by, and soon it was graduation day. At the ceremony, Greta took the stage as the representative of outstanding students. Respected teachers, dear classmates, good afternoon. Today, we stand here to bid farewell to our alma mater, to bid farewell to our youth. Greta's voice was clear and firm as her gaze swept across the teachers and students below, finally resting on Arthur. I want to thank my parents for giving me life and raising me. I want to thank my teachers for imparting knowledge and teaching me how to be a good person, and I want to thank my friends for accompanying me through life's ups and downs. In the future, we will embark on new journeys. I believe that as long as we hold on to our dreams and press forward bravely, we will surely create our own brilliance. Thunderous applause erupted from below. Arthur, holding a bouquet of flowers, gazed intently at Greta on stage, his eyes full of pride and love. After the ceremony, Arthur approached Greta, handed her the flowers, and gently pulled her into an embrace. The surrounding classmates applauded and offered their blessings. Amidst the crowd's well wishes, Greta and Arthur held each other tightly. What would their future hold? No one knew, but they believed that as long as they loved each other, they could overcome any obstacle and create a beautiful future together.